Well, so it's midweek already. Hello there. Good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We are live in your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. You can catch us on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is JoyNews, independent, fearless and credible. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, application for an interlocutory injunction on the electronic transactions levy unanimously dismissed by the Supreme Court. We hear shortly from the minority in Parliament on today's ruling. Also, Ghana Journalists Association calls out the Inspector General of Police for failing to fulfill his promise of expeditiously dealing with cases of attacks on journalists across the country.
Indeed, a drop in ranking had been anticipated due to a confluence of anti-media factors
and the demand for better working conditions. This afternoon on The Pulse, we hear from the midwives across public hospitals here in Ghana who are lamenting the poor working conditions in their facilities.
If in just this our conference, a sponsorship of just 500 cedis after working a whole year was a torrent.
Well, stay with us here on The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogah. As always, The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Low, affordable, safe sanitation. This afternoon as well, we're streaming live on our YouTube and all of our social media handles. Is at JoyNews on TV. Tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogah. Thanks for choosing us. This is The Pulse. Well, so this afternoon, the Ghana Police Service has come under intense criticism for failing to pursue nearly all cases of attacks on journalists across the country. Reporters Without Borders, in its latest press freedom ranking, indicates that the safety of journalists has deteriorated sharply in recent years. In 2020, reporters covering the effectiveness of anti-COVID-19 measures, for instance, were attacked by security forces, and political leaders equally making death threats against investigative journalists. These martyrs have been captured in the reports. Well, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afil Moni, earlier today called out the police service for failing to pursue cases involving journalists.
Because of Ghana's latest ranking in the World Press Freedom Index, which is depressing enough to effect dramatic mood swings from one of celebration to that of lamentation. Indeed, a drop in ranking had been anticipated due to a confluence of anti-media factors, but never did we expect the drop to be so precipitous, third in Africa and 10th in the world, and 30th in the world to 60th, 100% decline. We watched with shudder and heard with shiver the merciless arrests, reckless attacks, and animalistic disregard for the rights of journalists, even in the line of duty. The deterministic outcome has been a sharp deterioration of the safety of journalists. That threat reigned on investigative journalists also went uninvestigated, let alone punished, while law enforcement officers who were supposed to protect journalists rather brutalize them. 3 years on the spin, the assassination of Ahmed Swale of Tiger Eye fame, in the most heinous of circumstances, has been a stain on Ghana's reputation as a land of freedom and justice, a citadel of media freedom, and a beacon of democratic accomplishments in Africa. Assurance upon assurance of arresting the perpetrators have remained a hollow rhetoric. With regrets that the broadcasting bill designed to address some of the lingering challenges on the airwaves has been incubating for far too long. While we urgently demand the birth of the proposed law either by natural or cesarean means, we need to orchestrate a national conversation to take a hard look at the ownership structure of the media.
Well, so these are the concerns of the Ghana Journalists Association. Obviously, that questions the Ghana Police Service and what it is that the service has been doing to ensure safety of journalists. In fact, all of these matters were captured in the reports by Reporters Without Borders in the latest press freedom ranking. Joining us now is a security analyst, Dr. Adam Bona, who's helping us to understand the security perspectives and implications of this matter. Good afternoon to you, sir. Many thanks for joining us here on The Pulse. So I'm sure that you've read the report yourself, the one that talks about specifically about the safety of journalists. And it goes ahead to point out how the police service has failed to pursue cases involving attacks on journalists. What's your reading into all of these findings that are coming up?
Well, yes, good afternoon and good afternoon to your viewers. It's difficult to take the report as it's been delivered from a very not so good situation to one of the, the worst since probably the fourth Republican whatever took place. You are talking about from 30 to about 60. And you have countries like Niger, Sierra Leone, and several other countries. Burkina Faso has been in turmoil for a very long time. You take a country like Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire hasn't been very stable for a while. And so if all these countries are rated better than us when it comes to press freedom, then I would say that a country without good press freedom is doomed to fail. And so this rating is something that we need to look at as a people. It's important we look at it well and look at the factors that has culminated into this bad rating. And if you look at the report, they have raised issues about, investigations that probably have stalled or has been ongoing forever. And one that comes to mind that we all point to is the killing of Ahmed Swale and the fact that as we speak, no one has really been arrested. I would say that we have a new police administration. The new police administration would have to put all hands on the wheel and probably go back into most of these cases. I don't want to call them cold cases. And investigate them thoroughly. And definitely someone committed that crime. That person is living amongst us. And I have no doubt the police, don't have what it takes to arrest them. Latif was assaulted. And we have a new police administration. I am confident that the new police administration should do well so that next year around May, when we have a report against World Press Freedom Day, Ghana's, rating would be better.
And Dr. Bona, that's why, for instance, you have the Ghana Journalists Association questioning the leadership of the IGP. It's by far the first black spot on his track record, what we know him to have stood for all this while. The fact that he would go all out and ensure that cases are brought to its conclusive end. However, in this report, it appears that the police is not interested in cases involving journalists. What are the factors, in your view, accounting for such a development?
Well, I am not sure whether the police is not interested in cases that involve journalists. At least since the report was released, my own conversation with the top hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service indicate that it looks like some of these cases were not initially properly investigated. And anyone who understands the way and manner investigations are done, the way, information, crime scene management and all that, the first respondents to some of these areas, if they fail to pick vital information, it means that you have to reconstruct what took place. And plus, minus, you might be successful, you might not be successful. For instance, you take the case of Latif. Your colleague Latif, who was brutalized, and I think he has a fracture in the skull.
Precisely.
And up to now, we don't know who committed that heinous crime, against that young man. And this happened at the forecourt, I think, at the police headquarters somewhere there. My point is that Once, those who are supposed to be dealing with this case from the word go fail to investigate it thoroughly, those who take over, as in the current IGP and his team, then it becomes very difficult to say, or else you will go and start bundling people together, and that
but Dr. Bonat,
to...
this is the Ghana Police Service. It's an institution.
Yeah, it is. I'm not holding brief for them. But what I'm saying is that we should press them and ask them, go back into your archives, find out who were dealing with these cases, because most of those who are dealing with these cases are still alive. They are still there, even if they've gone on retirement. Bring them back. Let them bring the docket, go into the docket. And I am told that they've started some investigations, but I'm also told that there's some difficulty here and there. I think that it will be a call on the IGP and his team now to ensure that the wrongs that were written in the past, and he has inherited, he would ensure that it is properly written today, or else to 2023, we might have, something that would be worse than we are seeing, because then some countries have done worse, and we thought that when you talk about beacon of democracy in the sub-region in Africa, Ghana, we've never faced any civil disobedience or civil unrest or any of those things. It looks like it's becoming something that is on paper, but in reality, if you look at this report, for me, it doesn't speak well to what we pride ourselves to be.
In fact, this conversation is just starting. Let's also bring in Peter Lonchinitubu, who was one time at the very high echelons of the Ghana Police Service, served as aide to the previous IGP, and he understands a lot of the issues happening there at the Ghana Police Service. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you so much, my brother, for having me.
Welcome to the program. Now, first of all, are you surprised that the latest press freedom report is indicating that nearly all cases involving attacks on journalists have not been pursued by the Ghana Police Service?
Thank you very much once again. Let me say good afternoon to our cherished listeners, and then also a very good afternoon to my brother, Adam Bonner. I always say a brother in successful business is a brother lost. I think he's doing so well now, and I hardly find him. Probably after this, I'm sure they'll give me a call to see if I can locate him. Say hello. What has been released, for me, I am not surprised. One thing we have to take note of is the fact that a journalist is seen as a representative of the people, is a mouthpiece of the people. The police can arrest 20 people. When you go and arrest one journalist, it's like the whole Ghana is in trouble. The police can investigate 20 murders. When one single journalist is murdered, it is seen to be an attack on press freedom. So if you find one single case involving a journalist that has gone cold, joining the class of cold cases, it is quite worrying, because it seems the understanding of many of the local people, including my people in Wa, when you talk about democracy, they will tell you it means yele kan yele. Yele kan yele in Wale simply means kabi mami kabi in tree. So when you're talking about a democracy that is promoting kabi mami kabi, it is virtually about the freedom to say what you want to say, the freedom to express yourself. So if that freedom is being affected in a way, curtailed in a way, I'm sure that everybody will begin to realize it has a negative consequence on our democracy. So looking at what has transpired in the past 1 year, I wasn't surprised. What shocked me most was the deep drop from 30th position to 60th position.
Right.
That is huge, and it's quite scary for me.
But what's also surprising is that you were there at the Ghana Police Service when some of these cases happened. For instance, the murder of Ahmed Swale, for instance, you were there as well. Are you surprised that till date, the police service, which you left, is not able to conclude on some of these cases?
One professional, I will tell you, I'm not surprised. There are two things. The Ghana Police Service, as I don't speak for them, the Ghana Police Service will have to up its game to ensure that they win back public confidence. And I think that the new Inspector General of Police is on track to winning back public confidence into the police service. Number two, the Ghana Police Service must be resourced enough to be scientifically up to task, so that if you are talking about the science in criminal investigation, they will be on top of their issues. If you are talking about the skills, the human skills for criminal investigations, the criminal investigators will be properly trained. And if you are also talking about the support of the local people to effective policing, the local people or the local population have gotten so much confidence in the police that they'll be willing to go at all lengths to support the police and unravel all the mysteries. So if you're able to get these three key things together, public confidence, scientific policing, and last but not the least, a well-trained police officer.
But for Sam, you are actually leaving out one of the most critical aspects, which has got to do with the issue of political interference, for instance. The politicians are almost playing games with these kind of cases. You agree?
Yeah. If you talk about political interference, I can tell you as a matter of fact, a well-trained professional police officer, it doesn't matter what the politician does. He can possibly get the results for the politician by being professional. You know, sometimes it's just out of ignorance. If a politician says, I want 3, and I want it 1 + 2 to give him 3, the professional can do it 1 + 1 + 1 and still give you the answer 3. And the 1 + 1 + 1 is actually the professional procedure. The professional is not going to jump the gun and do the 1 + 3 for you. But he will still get an answer that is supposed to help build the nation. Basically, the politicians should also be interested in building Ghana. If the politician's interest is all about suffocating the Ghanaian people, if the politician's interest is all about violating the rights of the citizenry, and the police officer in his professional sense supports that, then both of them are promoting undemocratic practices, and that is dangerous for our democracy going forward.
Again, Dr. Bonner at this moment. Dr. Bonner, the key concern has been about politics, executive influence into the activities of the police service. And that, for many, and some within the media itself, is affecting how the police service is able to deal with some of these cases.
Yes, let me also say good afternoon to my brother, Honorable Peter Tuobu Lanchene. He's a big brother. He's a brother. He's doing well for the constituency. So, but we will meet, when this is done. Going back to your question, listen, political interference, as we speak, there is some amount of political interference that is hindering the performance of even the current police administration. I mean, there are certain things some of us cannot say, but you see, the police does prosecutions on behalf of the Attorney General, or on behalf of the Attorney General. If a docket is sent to the Attorney General's department, and the Attorney General decides to say, no, leave it. They can't do anything. And I can tell you that there's been some cases that I'm aware of. I don't want to talk about them. Some politically charged cases that I know that the police are supposed to be in court today. And those cases have been, the dockets are sent and they are asked to, they are supposed to. And so political interference is one of the many factors, as my brother alluded to. It's one of the many factors that is hindering the performance of the police. So yes, maybe I will depart a bit from my brother who rose to be a senior officer before retiring and serving the people the people in the Upper West. Mine is that as we speak today, if the politicians will do a hands-off from the current police dispensation, the current police dispensation will probably unravel most of these cases. But the truth is that if you have to prosecute, and the guy you are prosecuting on his behalf tells you that, what do you do? Because then professionally, this thing should end up in court. But he says that, let's leave it. I will not mention any name, but you guys should look at some of the cases that are supposed to have been going to court and they haven't gone. Mm-hmm. And so mine is that the politicians, he is a member of parliament, a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. He is a member. I think we expect all of them. My brother, who used to be a police officer, well-experienced officer. Mm-hmm. These are some of the things they should be discussing in Parliament. The executive should have hands off. The legislative arm should have hands off from the police. Once they do that, all these things you see, because you know what? You would have sometimes a police officer assault a journalist. And this case, that police officer probably is supported by some big weight politician, or even a politician might have sent him. And he's supposed to be prosecuted. The docket would end up at the Attorney General's department. If it ends up in the Attorney General's department, no holding brief for anybody. But what I'm saying is that we need to look at this ranking and say, enough is enough. We want a situation where we would have an independent, resourceful police. As we speak, the police is, we need a lot of resources for the police. As we speak, how many crime scene detectives do they have? I mean, crime scene is a science. If a crime should happen today in the Upper West, a crime should happen, let's say a homicide should happen in Northeast, should happen in most of these regions. They have to send a crime scene investigators from Accra to the region. And anything beyond 48 hours, you are likely to lead to you lose a lot of vital information. So we need to have a comprehensive information.
Right, because we don't have all of the time, the report is still indicating very clearly that politicians are still in that habit of threatening journalists across the country. What's your expectation from the law enforcement agencies going forward?
Well, I think that when a journalist is threatened, the IGP has shown class. He's shown that he doesn't, his knife cuts both left and right, as far as I'm concerned. And I am happy when I see him do that. When you are threatened as a journalist, and he's been adequate enough, he will call you, talk to you himself, or maybe even visit you. Report it. Once you report, I am sure that whoever this politician is will be arrested. Some politicians, we used not to see that. Under his dispensation, some politicians have been arrested for traffic violations, have been arrested for other infractions. So I think that let's begin to see how we can work with the police. But confidence building, like my brother, Honorable Peter Lanchene Tuobu said, you know, the police needs to do as they are doing, do more to let the populace believe in them and believe that they are going to help Ghanaians reach wherever we want to reach in terms of press freedom and our peace index as well, and security index.
Dr. Bona is a security analyst. Let's wrap up with you, Peter Tobu Lanchene. At the parliamentary level, are you studying this report, and what are you likely to trigger at your level?
Thank you very much. I've gone through this report, and in fact, at the Supreme Court, I met my ranking member on Defense and Interior. We had a discussion. I'm sure that when Parliament resumes, we were going to take a look at it and see from the legislative perspective, what can we do to support the governance of this country in such a way that we can enhance press freedom so that at least the next report that is coming will appreciate. Dropping from 30 to 60 should not be something that anybody should be proud of, whether you are in opposition or in government, because it dents the image of the country. It affects our democratic credential, and all of us should get concerned. And for me, I am really, really concerned about this whole matter. And I'll do the bit that I can with my colleagues for us to play our role effectively, oversight role, and ensure that if there is a need for a fresh legislation to ensure that all the state agencies that must be apolitical to promote democracy, we should look at how we do it. It's not just police. The politicization of many state institutions has affected deeply the credentials, the democratic credentials of this country. We should begin to look at how do we ensure that many of these state institutions that are supposed to be independent, that are supposed to be apolitical, really are doing what they're supposed to be doing and doing it right.
Okay, then, we'll have to leave this conversation for now. I'm grateful, Peter Lanchene Tobu, ranking, obviously, one of the members of the Interior and Defense Committee in Parliament, former service personnel as well. But let's take you to the Supreme Court now. Application for an interlocutory injunction on the e-levy has been unanimously dismissed by the Supreme Court. Now, some minority members of Parliament, as we do know, including their leader, Haruna Idrisu, last month filed an application for an injunction to restrain the Ghana Revenue Authority from implementing the controversial electronic transactions levy. However, today's attempt to halt that process and the rollout of the e-levy before the determination of the case has failed. Kweku Asante joins me now, my colleague monitoring all of the events today. Kweku, first of all, let's start off with the background to this. What's the demand really of the minority with regard to the e-levy?
So, Blessed, we know that when Parliament passed the e-levy bill, the minority staged a walkout. And then they proceeded to go to the Supreme Court to argue that the NPP majority did not have the required numbers to pass the e-levy. We know that on the floor that day, after the minority staged the walkout, were 136 MPs, plus the MP for the Chieftaincy Minister Kojokum, who was in the precincts of Parliament. The Speaker ruled that he was in Parliament on the day. So the contention of the minority is that per an earlier ruling of the Supreme Court in the Justice Abdullahi case, the Parliament needed 138 MPs at least to make the determination. Right. So they went to court to seek an annulment of the passage of the e-levy. And before Parliament will go into the substantive issue, the minority MPs wanted the Supreme Court to restrain government, the GRA, and its technical partners from going ahead with the implementation of the e-levy.
And we need to state that that's happening because the case would have been heard today,
yes,
whereas the implementation of the e-levy started about 2 or 3 days.
3 days ago. That was on Sunday. And so they filed for an interlocutory injunction, which was also scheduled for today. So in court today, the substantive case, they did not go so much into it. They dealt with the interlocutory injunction that the NDC MPs had filed. So the judges who sat on the case, Justices Nene Amegacha, Professor Ni Ashikote, Maria Mawusu, Avril Lovelace Johnson, Gertrude Tokuno, Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, and Yoni Kulendi.
In all 7?
Yes, they made up the 7-member panel, presided over by Justice Nene Amegacha. So the court went into the injunction application that had been moved, and the argument that was made by the NDC, led by Eduji Tamaklo in court, was that per the balance of convenience, if the court were to allow the Ghana Revenue Authority to go ahead and implement the e-levy, then some sort of burden would have occasioned the ordinary Ghanaians who would have paid the e-levy, and they would not have any reprieve in terms of getting their money back. The Attorney General shot back and said that, well, if the argument is that Parliament did not have the numbers, and we are about to go into the substantive matter, if government goes ahead and collect the e-levy, and the Supreme Court decides later on that the e-levy was not properly passed, all the court will do is to order government through GRA to refund the monies back. And so the court did what they call the balancing of the convenience and came to the conclusion that if they granted this injunction, what will happen is that government is going to lose revenue in the case the substantive case is dealt with and they find that the bill was passed properly. Because government will not have any recourse to get this money back. On the other hand, if the court is to hold at the end of the day that the e-levy was not properly passed, but government has already started collecting the tax, then all e-levy would have to do, all the government and the GRA has to do is to pass that money back to the specific persons they deducted the money from. So that was the substance of the arguments that the Supreme Court advanced in holding this. But what they also did was to hold that whatever Parliament does, the presumption of regularity imposes on the court the duty to act in a manner that says that until you prove with substantive evidence that what Parliament did was irregular, then the court will not listen to you. And so at the end of the day, the court looked at these two arguments and decided that it would not grant the application for injunction, but that the Ghana Revenue Authority should keep all the records of the taxes they will deduct in case they make adverse findings against the GRA. Then GRA can use that data to pass on the money to the consumers.
Well, quick question to you. I'm grateful for the latest update. Minority Leader himself, Haruna Idrisu, has been speaking to the media after today's ruling.
Some irreparable damage or hardship will be caused. Our hardship, as we understand it, is the disrespect to the Constitution by the action of passage into law of an Act 1075, with numbers below the minimum constitutional threshold of 138 members of Parliament. Can you imagine? I heard the Attorney General laboriously arguing that it was a voice vote. So Ebenezer Kum voted with his voice from an ambulance, or he voted with his voice from a clinic to add to the voice vote. And he is insisting that 266 members of Parliament participated in the decision and participated in the motion. 266 members of Parliament, after the minority of 136 walked out. Certainly, these are matters that the Ghanaian public can get better. But what is refreshing and heartwarming today is the second part of the ruling, which gives directives to the Ghana Revenue Authority to preserve and keep the money. At least some people will not be in a rush to collateralize it until the substantive matter is determined. For us, we raise this matter because it's of public interest significance, it's of constitutional significance, and we think that we'll pursue it to its logical conclusion. So we are very happy with the performance of our lawyers. We only pray that Ghana is not going to have two sets of laws. One that serves and protects the elected elite of a ruling government, and ones that serve the political minority of an opposition. Judicial notice of our walkout, they walked out. They walked out when the budget was rejected. You know the numbers. It was 274. We're not told that quorum for decision was 274, as we have been told somewhere in someone's argument, at least not the court, that 266 passed the motion. What you people should note is that in parliamentary practice, the fact that you took a motion through second reading did not mean that at consideration and third reading, you didn't require minimum numbers. We still uphold the principle. At least, Jesse Question was marked absent from the record that way.
Let's focus on the health sector now. Midwives in public hospitals across the country are demanding what they describe as better working conditions. The group argues that its members have been denied the opportunity of career progression, with some others lacking adequate equipment to ensure better healthcare delivery. President of the association, Faustina Asamoah, made the appeal at the maiden conference of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Conference here in Accra.
It is our maiden conference because around the year 2013, the then leadership of the government registered midwives group under the GRNMA took the unfortunate decision to break away from the GRNA then to form another association. Frantic efforts were made to bring them back but failed. As legitimate as their reasons may appear, majority of midwives across the country did not back it. In 2017, some few members led by my good self started advocating for the reorganization of the majority group under the Mother Union. With this movement, out of about 27,000 midwives in the public sector, about 15,000 remain registered as GRNMA members, which has a major shift from the previous 2,000 membership. In 2018, the group was officially inaugurated at Ejisu in the Ashanti region during the International Nurses Day, and I was privileged to be its chairperson interim after the rebirth. I hope and pray that never again shall our torrid and unfortunate past be repeated. Madam President and our chairperson, the theme for our maiden conference is Midwives, a voice to lead in the midst of challenges of the healthcare system. The significance of this theme within the current age cannot be overemphasized, bearing in mind how COVID-19 exposed our healthcare systems across the globe, with Ghana not an exception. Despite the relatively fewer midwives in our healthcare delivery system, the majority of key health indicators are based on major work output of the midwife. Talk about the maternal mortality with its complexities, infant mortalities, neonatal mortality, stillbirth rates, antenatal, including prevention of mother-to-child transmission and postnatal services with its associated indicators. It is quite clear that, Madam Chairperson, that a midwife is key in any dialogue, policy development and implementation towards addressing major systemic challenges facing our healthcare delivery in Ghana. The midwife is key to achieving our set targets for the Sustainable Development Goals. Let me hasten to add that it is by no accident that a midwife is the first face you see when you enter this world. Madam Chairperson, permit me to echo that the fact that despite the critical role played by midwives in our health system, we are still faced with major challenges in our care delivery process. Number one, logistical challenges. Lack of logistics in most facilities hinder productivity. The provisions of what we call the computer tomography or the CTG
These are the concerns of the general nurses and also midwives across the country. So let's expand this conversation and get the concerns of the group. Joining us now is General Secretary for the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives, David Tinkran. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So exactly what are your concerns and why are you complaining that you don't have adequate facilities in your, in your various departments?
All right. Good afternoon, my brother, and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend my warmest felicitation to all nurses and midwives in Ghana, and especially midwives. Of course, I mean, yesterday we had a maiden conference for registered midwives that belongs to our organization, and as was recounted by the president or the chairperson, they have a myriad of constraints that mitigate the smooth running of their work. And the first thing that they talked about was logistical constraints. And I believe that these are major challenges that affect the healthcare delivery. I mean, she indicated that the first person you meet on earth is the midwife. And if they don't have the necessary logistics to help in delivery and monitoring of the fetal heart, and as I mentioned, the CTG machine, then obviously they will have a lot of challenges. They also mentioned about human resource when it comes to study leave policy that is skewed against them. They are not able to pursue academic levels based on what they set out to do for themselves. And these are some of the few challenges that they laid out. In fact, they have very poor condition of service. Most of the midwives find themselves in villages, health centers, chip centers, and they run virtually 24 hours, but they have no allowances going for them. I remember 2 years ago when we approached government to negotiate for nurses and midwives in this country. We brought this to the attention of government that they need to have a rural incentive for the midwives that actually reside in these hard-to-reach areas. But up to today, we've served on several committees. We were told that the report is ready, but as I speak, they've not been able to implement the report. And these are some of the challenges that were laid out yesterday by the chairperson.
And what has been the engagement with government so far? Are you making any follow-ups on your concerns?
Exactly. On daily basis, we knock the doors of the Minister for Health and the Director of Human Resources. They keep assuring us that as far as the village incentive or the rural incentive is concerned, they are working tirelessly to get it implemented. But it's 2 years now and counting. That should tell you that people are not taking it kindly at all.
Paint the picture for us. How bad really is the situation across the country?
Okay, so as far as the human resource issue is concerned, and for that matter, the ability for them to be able to pursue higher education. Mind you, midwifery is actually a specialist program that in various jurisdictions is not a first level qualification. You have to actually complete your training in nursing before you pursue that. But some years back, about 13 years ago, we did a need assessment and we decided to bring midwifery training to first level, at diploma level, all right? And it doesn't even make them competitive. All right. So if that's the case, then we need to make sure that they are able to get access to study leave so that they can pursue first degree, the master's degree, and the rest of it to be able to improve service delivery. As far as I'm concerned, they are ready to work, but they need the supportive items that will enable them to give out their best. So basically, these are some of the concerns that they have.
Are we likely to see an industrial action in the coming days? After all, we've seen the notice earlier over some of the allowances that have not been paid to your members. What are you considering at this moment as your option?
I'm not too sure we want to consider any strike action. We believe that the good people of this country deserve the best. More often than not, when we embark on a strike action, it doesn't affect the politician. It's just you and I who bear the brand of such things. And we believe that government should listen attentively to the plight of the midwives so that we are able to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure we've gotten there yet.
Right, and precisely that's why I'm asking the question, because there's an implication on healthcare delivery in many of the public facilities across the country.
Exactly. So that is why we keep asking government. You see, sometimes when we start like this, they don't tend to listen to us. So I just want to assure the good people of this country that midwives and nurses are not thinking of going on strike, but we want to tell government to improve the service conditions of nurses and midwives. Let me tell you, from 1st of January up to 1st of April, 2,500 nurses and midwives have left the shores of this country. And on daily basis, if you like, take your cameras to the Ministry of Health, you find a long queue of nurses and midwives buying clearance form, and they continue to buy if we don't do anything to motivate them and to change the narrative. If we don't change the narrative as far as the pay and allowances are concerned in this country, by the time we open our eyes, my brothers and sisters, they'll be left. They are leaving in droves. Okay, I have the statistics, but I don't want to put it out yet.
It won't be fair if you don't help us with the figures. So help us understand how the situation is. You mentioned over 2,000 nurses leaving just this year alone.
Yes, I've told you, from 1st of January to 1st of April, 2,500 nurses and midwives have left the shores of this country. All right. So if we don't do anything about their condition of service, it is going to be worse.
Are we certain that this is because of the poor conditions within which they are working, or perhaps they're just looking forward to working outside this country?
It's just because of the poor conditions which we find ourselves. Let me tell you, my brother, some of us have lived in this country for the past 22 years, working tirelessly as nurses and midwives, and we are still here. Okay, a time comes where avenues are open for other professionals to move out of this country. We decided to live in this country to serve our motherland. Our people are ever ready to stay in this country to serve the good people of this country. But if we don't improve their conditions of service, they will leave. All right. And migration is a right, and nobody can stop anybody from traveling. I keep saying that they have every right to better their lives everywhere. And for that matter, if they consider other jurisdictions as ideal for them to better their lot, they have to go. But I can assure the good people of this country that if government listen to the plights of the nurses and midwives in this country and address the concerns as we have laid out, majority of them will remain in this country and serve the good people.
Okay, so where do we start from? I guess that would be of paramount interest to everyone involved.
Well, I think, as I said, we did our negotiations. We completed our negotiations about 2.5 years ago, and some of the items were not implemented. All right, those items that are not seeing the light of day must be implemented urgently. Again, we made a demand because, don't forget that around 2001, between 1999 to 2005, there was this exodus and attrition of nurses and midwives. President Kufuor at the time had to put in various measures, including car waiver and the rest of it. That's why government decided to remove the car waiver, and anything that went to nurses and midwives was virtually removed. Okay, and we are back to square one. If government is able to bring back this car waiver and other things like that, it will help them for them to stay, okay, and improve their service conditions, salary and allowances and the rest of it. And as I've told you about study leave, the quota system is so bad that it doesn't help them. A midwife will be posted to a village and will be virtually forgotten. When they apply for study leave for 5, 6, 7 years, they've not gotten study leave to move out of that village. They are young ladies. How do you expect them to even find partners? All right. So these are some of the issues that affect our people. And if nothing is done about it, I can assure you that we will have a very difficult situation on our hands.
Okay, thank you for your time. That's David Tinkran, General Secretary of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Well, we can now touch on what's happening elsewhere in the world. The European Union has just announced new sanction packages against Russia, including a proposed ban on Russian oil. This is certainly big in Germany, a country with a considerable dependence on Russian energy. What will be the implications for the German market and the rest of the world? Joining us now is DW's Thomas Sparrow. He's helping us understand this. And Thomas, let's start off with exactly what the EU is proposing. What does the sanction entail?
The EU is essentially proposing a gradual ban on Russian oil. The key word again is a gradual one, so it wouldn't be an immediate ban on Russian oil. It would be one spread over the next few months, and very probably also with exceptions for countries like Slovakia or Hungary that are particularly dependent on Russian energy. This is very important news here in Europe, this idea or this proposed plan by EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, because Russia's energy sector has been at the center not only of debates, let's say here in Germany, but also across Europe as to what steps could happen next regarding sanctions. This is the 6th round of sanctions that the EU is planning. It also includes further steps that go beyond this embargo. It would also sanction individuals, including probably the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, as well as sanctioning further banks, including some of the major banks in Russia. So certainly a very significant proposal by Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. It's important to stress that this has to be approved unanimously by the 27 members of the European Union if it is indeed going to happen.
And help us understand this. What will this mean for Germany, which relies so heavily on Russia for its energy needs?
For Germany, it is certainly very important. Germany was at the beginning rather reluctant on imposing an oil embargo, in particular because the country had a large dependence on Russian oil, not only on Russian oil, but specifically on Russian oil. The dependence before the war was around 35% of imports. Germany has so far reduced that to around 12%, according to the country's climate ministry, economy ministry. And as such, this is why Germany now supports the idea of this gradual, and again, this is an important word, gradual ban on Russian oil. Germany had stated right from the beginning that it would be in favor of such a move as long as European countries could be prepared to find alternative sources of energy, and that they could also have the time to considerably understand the political and the economic impact of.
Germans have also been reacting to this. What are we learning on the streets?
Germans will probably see this in positive eyes, with a positive view, because recent polls have basically revealed that many Germans, a majority of Germans, in fact, were in favor of such a gradual reduction of this dependence, in particular when it comes to Germany, but also when you look at it from a wider perspective in the EU. On other aspects, Germans do see things differently. For example, when it comes to sending weapons, heavy weapons to Ukraine, Germans are very clearly divided on that issue. But when it comes to the issue of an oil embargo, a gradual oil embargo, a majority of Germans do believe this is the right way forward when it comes to sanctioning Russia.
All right then. Thomas Sparrow is with our partners DW. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Blessed Sogah. We'll return shortly after this break. Please stay. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology is asking the law enforcement agencies to be more radical in clamping down on activities of illegal mining. The government last year ordered a military task force to ban excavators working on illegal mining concessions. Although the move was widely criticized for violating the rule of law, the government says the devastating effects of the activities of illegal miners on the environment warrants the need for a radical measure to halt the menace. Well, today at a press conference, the sector minister, Dr. Friye, also reiterated that same position.
Banning of excavators, yes, I supported it when it came, because the excavator, if you talk about carbon footprint, they are causing worse pollution than your so-called the fumes that we see. One excavator can cause so much damage. And remember, that tree that was illegally felled, because it will rot and it will let off, albeit slowly. You know, the breakdown also brings in these noxious carbon dioxide things. Of course, I must admit that's a very slow thing. But on the other hand, they are associated with galamsey, other activities. In fact, if you eliminate excavators, the apologists for excavators, let me put it on record, I'm even more, Minister Bu is even more tolerant than me. If I were in charge, like they will have no sleep. I'm telling you, because I see the devastation that these excavators have caused to our farms and whatnot. Me, particularly, even my own farms. So I have no truck with them. The law says they must be jailed between 15 to 25 years, but not being enforced. And I'm in my own government. I'm so shocked. So, as for the excavators and those who are doing galamsey, you can take it that I am on terra firma. I side with Minister Abu 100% and even more. And that one, their carbon footprint is so an academic thing. It's one way off. The iron there will not. It is only the fuel and the ties which will let off those things. You do as get, see, these things are very emotive. But if you calculate the carbon footprint proper, that the devastation will leave behind, you will be shocked. You go and calculate it. Let somebody do it for you. So, air quality. That's why I say this thing will not touch on anything. But I'm aware the EPA has acquired equipment that measures air quality. They are piloting it, and let's pray that we have money. Very soon, you have air quality measurement, particularly even in mining areas where problems like pneumoconiosis, silicosis, and all those things emanate from particulate matter.
Meanwhile, the ministry says it has secured an approval for a $7 million co-finance project with the Global Environment Facility to support the establishment of a framework for circular plastics management.
In a model called preventive model, where you are incentivized by the plastics not seen in your area of jurisdiction. So the details will come later. The ministry is promoting this preventive approach as in tandem with the incentive-based system. And we want to ensure that rewards are given only when there are no plastics seen in the jurisdictions assigned to individuals or groups, as compared to the current practice of reward being based on the quantity of plastics collected. The incentive-based approach does not address the collection of orphaned plastics like the bread and banku, what we call bread and banku robbers, you remember. So we then, again, one other aspect of the issue is that we are trying to match the capacity of the plastic being imported and manufactured in country with the capacity of the recycling industries. The ministry is engaging the private sector companies who are into recycling of plastics to determine their capacities in terms of infrastructure and the appropriate financial models required for the sustainable management of plastics. We've achieved some modicum of achievements so thus far, but we are not there yet. Ghana, we have, for example, at the international arena, we have co-sponsored a historic resolution at the UN Environmental Assembly, UNEA 5, in Kenya to end plastic pollution and forge an international legally binding agreement by 2024. MESTI also secured an approval of $7 million to co-finance projects with the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, to support the establishment of a framework for circular economy in plastic management. Indeed, even though we are yet to do our local act, put our local act together very well, we have even been recognized as part of some of the countries which are very active in this plastic management arena. So if we get Ghanaians to be behind us and we put our act together, I think we can even achieve more.
Let's stay on issues relating to the environment, because residents of Kwapia near Krokere in the Adansi North District of the Ashanti region have kicked against the operations of the Akonta Quarry Limited in the area. They have issued a one-week ultimatum for the mining company to regularize its operations or phase thereof.
Speaking to JoyNews at a press conference on the issue, Kwapeahene Nana Jamra Kwabena Yikwai II said the company has failed to fulfill obligations to the company before starting operations. According to him, the company needs to honor payment of right compensation to farmers affected by the quarry operations, as well as other social responsibility agreements.
Omamuni nyina any company no any share. And ye do 2 year money say. Edi kan kwa mo fa so register assassin man fa kwan paso. Na ye
The whole community met with the company. We cautioned them to create a buffer zone between the town and the quarry.
Because there's a muja buffer be too cronu and quarry no. And now to medie na mubedino. That's no a bit in the Ariaba. And Teddy Kaino, as a mining who, baby, more dumadian ebeshasi.
The general manager of Akunta Quarry Limited, Nana Owusubempa, when contacted on phone, said the company is permitted to settle the goodwill package with the community. He, however, noted some social responsibility undertakings will be fulfilled when the business is in full operations.
More bad Nanan Wasasiswa, a woman's buying and a bemam lances, but yes, a bemam social lances are waiting me at the Yajuma. Answer now, your mamma crime Mamma said Jumano. You hear me say, you hear hospital equipment.
Though the company may have license from government, we have to give them a social license to operate. But they have failed to meet their social responsibilities.
Because a cronan can say hospital. It is no money near being here. At Osubium, Afibiano, Yamba Macrono, and Yamuya say, and some Yakano, Yamu Kodiako to a Mompanium for him, Yambasa Badium. On Yamama Bioma, Yamone, Yamufro Kriania, Niamo Fortunato Magiska.
Mona Lisa Frimpon reporting.
Now, the Menshia Government Hospital has debunked reports that nurses deserted their duty posts, leading to the death of a middle-aged woman on admission. Humu Husseini died on admission at the hospital at dawn on Monday, but shortly after, a journalist put up a Facebook post indicating she died because there was no nurse on duty to attend to her. The post has since gone viral, but the hospital says the deceased was admitted and giving the best of healthcare. Love FM's Erastus Cesare Donko has the latest on the story.
The Facebook post showing a video of a broken and teary Hudu Sulemana, husband of the deceased, said in part, quote, Mr. Hudu Sulemana has lost his wife at the Menshia District Hospital in Kumasi of the Ashanti region today, Monday, May 2nd, 2022. The disheartening part of it being that his wife died as a result of intentional no-nurse syndrome, unquote. In the video, husband of the deceased is heard saying his wife's sugar level was checked every 30 minutes and was asked to buy medications.
30 minutes beer, or check sugar. 30 minutes beer, or check sugar. Everybody say, me say no, Missikana or Jimmy Sono.
But the brain behind the post, Isaac Insia Foster, explains why he accuses the hospital of negligence.
Because personally, I was standing right beside a woman and I saw the woman suffering. I saw the woman, he was, I don't know how to put this, his heart was beating faster. So if there was a net around, I think that maybe she or he could report to the doctor in charge so that she could be saved. But unfortunately, there was no one around to report to the doctor. So the doctor came late. He couldn't do anything to save the woman.
But management of the Menshia Government Hospital says the post is misleading and inaccurate. Clinical care coordinator of the hospital, Dr. Michael Opoku, says the deceased Humu Fuseni was admitted on the 30th of April and given the needed care before her demise.
The first of the case is that this patient, as I said, was on admission at the emergency department and was given care 24/7. The doctors attended to her, the nurses at the emergency department were also there to also do their bit, including serving medications, checking her vital signs, and ordering for all the necessary labs. And so the assertion that she came, there was no nurse, and she was never attended to and didn't receive the best of care needed to be treated with the contempt it deserves. This patient had the best of care. She was attended to by our physicians, our nurses at the emergency department.
Medical Superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Kamaruddin Koku Hussein, told our news team the uninformed social media comment has demoralized staff.
It is highly demoralizing because, especially when you know that what is written there is not the truth, your staff are demoralized and then they will be wondering whether the service that we are providing is appreciated by the public.
The Health Services Administrator of Dementia Government Hospital, Rosemond Ofuriamanfo, called for public education on the activities of the hospital.
Sometimes we need to educate them on some of these issues. That when you come to a hospital, you don't just pick phones and start videoing people who are bereaved or people who are in pain. Then you move to social media and place it there.
In an interview with husband of the deceased, Hudu Sulemana, he said he doesn't have any issue with the hospital and does not believe there is any problem, as the Facebook post suggests.
Now, University Practice Senior High School qualified for the National Science and Maths Quiz competition in style as they beat their opponent with a 42-point gap. At the end of the contest, it was University Practice SHS with 63 points, in Sabat Presby also following through with some 21 points, and Methodist School with 19 points. Soidru School of Business as well came through with 17 points, and Awutu Community SHS with 10. Well, they have a warning for the so-called big names of the National Science and Maths Quiz as they vow to do all within their powers to win this year's trophy.
University Practice Senior High School has qualified for the National Science and Maths Quiz competition later this year. They qualified in grand style with 63 points, the highest points that we've seen so far in the central region. Now in the 2021 competition, they were kicked out at the preliminary stages by Asin State College. And now here at the regional qualifiers for this year's national competition, they've made an impressive showing. Let's get to them. Let's find out from them what it is like at this point. Guys, congratulations. Tell me, what is the feeling like for you right now?
My name is Mensa Suleiman from UPSHS. I'm a final year student. I'm a science student. This contest, when we are coming, we prepared very well with our teacher, Mr. Bruno. So this contest is star one. We took it to be star one. It's star one. It's star one. So international.
Watch out, wrestling girls. Watch out.
Tell them we are coming.
Watch out, we are coming.
Assistant. They are boasting. They are boasting. Okay, we are coming. As for them, we will use star 1.5.
So let's speak to an old student. What's your name? Which year did you complete?
I completed 2016. My name is Sion George. I read business from
What should we expect in the national competition?
UPSS, our performance on National Science and Maths Quiz has always been unprecedented. Just that of late, things are not really going on well, but we are coming up and then we are tackling issues that we need to address. So coming up, we are going to give off our best. We have been to the finals. That was 2015. At that time, I was in school. So this has always been UP. This has always been UP. So we are going to give off our best.
You also are old students?
Yes.
What should we expect in the national competition?
Our very best. This time we are coming in full. No stopping. We are coming. Yes, this time we are fully prepared. Yes, great. Even if they are doing it in Tamale, we will come to Tamale. If they do it in Kwanga, we will come there.
side. You give me gas side. You give me gas side. You give me side. No strike. Why did you
And we'll bring you the very latest on the National Science and Maths quiz. But this is The Pulse with me, Blessed Sogah, here on the JoyNews channel. Please stay. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. And you're welcome back. The Central Regional Directorate of the Ghana Health Service has been warning how residents in the region are refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccines. According to the Ghana Health Service, many of those who refuse the jabs tell them the COVID-19 is no more and that they don't see the need to take the jab. Speaking at a news conference in Cape Coast, Central Regional Director of the Health Services, Dr. Akusa Sapong, called for support of the media to help drown home the need for all to take the vaccines for the country to achieve herd immunity. There's more in the following report.
The Central Region has come a long way in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, and several efforts have been made by the Ghana Health Service in the region to help reduce the burden of the disease to the barest minimum. The region so far has recorded 5,820 cases with some deaths. Currently, there are no active cases. The rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines as an effective measure to deal with the pandemic started in phases where the initial ones were done at high and population risk areas of the region and eventually rolled out among the entire region. But the Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Akusa Sapong, says there are a section of the population here in the region who have concluded that the COVID-19 disease is no more, and measures like hand-washing exercises have reduced and in some places halted altogether as a result of the misconception.
In this region, for us to achieve herd immunity, we need to immunize more than 1,700,000 population, people, so that we can achieve the herd immunity. But what we have administered so far, we've administered more than 300,000 doses. So we've administered more than 1,300,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccines. And out of this, 50% of the eligible population have received one dose of the vaccine. 32% have received 2 doses. And 4% have received boosters. That is those who had their second immunization exceeding more than 3 to 6 months. So we have 4% of them receiving their boosters. We are having issues with vaccine hesitancy. Some of our people think that the disease is no more, and therefore they are refusing to take the vaccines. And our monitoring of various and institutions revealed that hand-washing items and facilities are non-operational, and hand-washing or hand hygiene practices have been stopped or been reduced to the barest minimum.
Dr. Sapong wants the support of the media and well-meaning Ghanaians to support the region to achieve herd immunity.
Our efforts at overcoming the COVID-19 pandemic are yielding results. However, more needs to be done. The pandemic can be completely halted if every eligible person in this region receives the full immunization, is fully immunized. In all our facilities and vaccination centers, the vaccination is ongoing. So to our dear friends in the media, your role in the fight against this pandemic is critical. I urge you to continue supporting the service to promote positive behaviors and get our people vaccinated.
It is the desire of the Ghana Health Service that the hand-washing practices that supported the fight against COVID-19 would be continued for the prevention of diseases other than COVID-19. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejinyako, Cape Coast.
And you're still watching the polls now. The Canoe Owners Association of Ghana has been warning the erratic supply and management of premix fuel distribution across the landing beaches of the country. The fishermen say the incessant premix fuel diversion and the mismanagement of the distribution of premix fuel appear to have reached its peak, with the recent case in Keta in the Volta region as an evidence at a news conference at Sogah in the Greater Accra region. A National Executive Committee member of the Canoe and Fishing Gear Owners Association of Ghana, Daniel Soti, called on the President to step up its efforts in ensuring that adequate supply of premix fuel is made available to the landing beaches. There's more in the following report.
In the last few days, there has been a lot of concern with respect to the closure of the fishing season this year. We are here at the Nungwa landing beach to speak to these fisherfolk to know what's really the problem with the closure of the fishing season. Restricted fishing season, which began in 2019, appears to have had a favorable influence on harvest. The goal is to rebuild the depleted fish stocks. Some anglers are dissatisfied with the date of the season's end. With only a few weeks until the start of this year's nationwide closed fishing season, some fishermen are requesting a date modification. Francis, who has worked in the fishing industry for over 40 years, explains that while the season is closed, foreign trawlers are allowed to fish. Foreign nationals, he claims, kill the fish with their fishing methods. He considers it as distressing and he believes it undermines the closure's purpose. We would be glad if authorities close the sea in May and opens it in June for us. You still find trawlers on shore during the closure of the sea. How will they deal with the trawler operators? What information will be given to the trawler operators? They kill all the fishes with their method of fishing before the sea is opened. This is very disturbing and it takes away the motive behind the closure. Authorities must close the sea to both local fisherfolk and the foreigners. Secondly, during the closure, life becomes very difficult. With the current economic situation wreaking havoc on all enterprises, Joyce, a long-time angler, says life has become miserable for them. She said that after the closure last year, many of the children in the community were involved in a variety of vices.
We are suffering. After the closure of the sea last year, many of the youth in the community resorted to stealing. Fishing is our source of livelihood. That is what we use to educate our children. I go fishing myself, and I have 3 children. All of them go fishing as well. The timelines for the closure this year will greatly affect us as compared to the previous years. So we are pleading with the authorities to reconsider their decision.
But he believes that changing the date will help them do more. He noted that the month for the closure in 2020 was fine for them, but that of last year and this year's July to August month will have a negative influence on their business and livelihoods due to the hardship. We are hungry. The situation is worrying. The May-August closure will not be favorable at all. Fishing is our only source of income. The timeline for last 2 years was okay. To be frank with you, we were happy. Many of these fishermen have entreated their leaders to speak with the ministries about their mounting fears with respect to the closure, but it appears that these efforts have been ineffective. Looking around, this clearly tells you what these fisher folk go through on daily basis. I earlier engaged them and I was being told that last year's closure, that was within the months of July to August, was not the best. As fisherfolk, they prefer the months of April and May. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
Now, the Ghana-Britain Partnership for Innovation and Entrepreneurship program has been launched at the University of Cape Coast. The project has the goal of driving collaboration amongst all innovation for African university projects in Ghana to bring the attention of the general public to the successes and the opportunities available to the youth in the area of innovation and entrepreneurship. Launching the program, the lead of the Ghana-Britain Partnership for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Professor Desmond Omanie-Champong, underscored the need for Ghana to equip its youth with entrepreneurial skills to make them competitive anywhere they find themselves. Richard Kojo-Nyako has the rest of the story.
Champong, if the skills of the youth are properly harnessed, it will increase the working age population, which could promote high productivity and a more robust economic growth across the African continent. He says in the light of the numerous opportunities available to the youth, the British Council designed and introduced the Innovation for African Universities program, which is a part of a growing global partnership program.
The IAU program aims to foster culture of innovation and entrepreneurship within universities and facilitate the development of knowledge and skills required to build industry, companies, products and services. Additionally, the program is designed to promote the development of Africa-UK Universities Partnership that builds institutional capacity for higher education engagement and entrepreneur and innovation ecosystem in the selected African countries. This year, British Council rolled out another program, christened Community Building Project. And the aim of this new project, which is an offshoot of the IAU program, is to foster closer collaboration among IAU project partners in a particular country for a better community impact. This informed the design and start of the project Ghana-Britain Partnership for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, dubbed GBPI.
Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast highlighted how the university was putting in place structures and programs to make the university an entrepreneurial one. She indicated that the university had begun reworking its curriculum to enable students that are trained there acquire entrepreneurial skills before they graduate from the university. Professor Rosemond Bohini believes making the student acquire 21st century skills is the university's current direction, and all structures are being put in place for its success.
Currently, what we are doing is we are revising our curriculum. We have a team that is looking at curriculum development. And what we are trying to do is we want to incorporate the 21st century skills into our curriculum. And you talk about entrepreneurship, you talk about ICT skills, you talk about innovation, you talk about creativity. These are the 21st century skills. And what we are doing now, we've started training or doing stakeholder analysis with the departments and faculties. And we are hoping that in the next 1 year, 2 years, if we are revising our programs, we'll make sure that all our programs incorporate the 21st century skills. And when they are able to, our students are able to develop these skills, they will be able to operate anywhere they find themselves, whether in Ghana, whether in Africa, or in any part of the world. Because when you are looking at ICT skills, you are looking at collaboration, you are looking at critical thinking, you are looking at entrepreneurship, you are looking at collaborative skills. They are all aimed at developing an all-round student.
She indicated apart from the business incubator the university has, the university recently launched the Design Thinking and Innovation Hub that's aimed at helping students to grow and nurture their business ideas so they can turn them into startups. The program comprises 24 partnerships of UK universities and sub-Saharan African universities, as well as entrepreneurial ecosystem organization and runs in Kenya, Nigeria and Ghana. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kojo-Nyako, Cape Coast.
And now the chairperson of the Kumasi Presbytery of the Global Evangelical Presbyterian Church is blaming corruption in Ghana on the failure of the church to impact on the lives of its members. Reverend Dr. Rosalind Fuga says the widely held belief that Ghana is a Christian nation is not enough when the majority of Ghanaians who are members of the church continue to be involved in corruption. Himinteria has more in the following report.
Over 9.7 million of the country's population are Christians. A number of politicians who find themselves in this category are mostly tagged as corrupt. But Simon Osei-Mensah believes corruption cannot be tackled if other public officials and civil servants found in churches refuse to change their ways. He was speaking at a Durbar and Thanksgiving service of the centenary celebration of the Asante Presbytery of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana.
Among the 70% we are talking about. So if the 70% Christians are able to change, if we are able to live lives worth emulation, definitely corruption will come down. But always if we point at the politicians and ignore the people of the various churches, then we will not make any headway. And I gave myself as example as the regional minister. I don't sign checks. So before I can maybe steal money from the regional coordinating council, the check might be signed by the technocrats who are also the Christians. So if they decide not to do the wrong things, definitely corruption will be reduced drastically.
Moderator for the Presbyterian Church of Ghana and chairman of the Christian Council, Reverend Professor Joseph Obeni-Yabuamante bemoans the chastisement Christian leaders occupying public offices face.
Why is it that Christianity is growing in this country, but it's clouded with greed, with foul talk, with pride, with corruption? Why? Why are they so much? And I saw them so cry, Obi evangelist, so called man of God, who call them more pro, and I would hear no ye, and if he, now a flower man of God,
many are tagged greedy. He advises Christian leaders to be content in their quest for power.
Because for where I sit as chairman of Christian Council, every time we meet people in the public space who are not Christians, and they are chiding us with the fact that over 71% of Ghanaians are Christians, and yet you have more corruption, you have more greed. The greed in Ukraine, the Kumi. I don't know one can say a year, and no man yet, no man be brave, no be brave. What do you yet there? Quite.
Following the passage of the e-levy, which received mixed reactions from the public, a number of people have devised means to avoid the 100 Ghana cedis threshold. Chairperson of the Asante Presbytery, Reverend Benson Osafo Kantanka, wants the government to make judicious use of revenue generated.
One area we have reached now is on e-levy because it is a source of money. People come from places. They come and work in the country and they send their monies there. So the government want to enter that place. The idea of entering the place is no problem. But how to make good use of the money we get is the problem now. We are pleading with the government that it should use the money judiciously to help the children, to help the country so they can go forward.
Mona Lisa Frempong reporting.
Let's take you to Techiman, the rector of the Techiman campus of the University, the Valley View University, Professor Emmanuel Samoa, has bemoaned the decrease in the school's enrollment for the 2022-2023 academic year. The rector, who was speaking at the school's 27th matriculation ceremony, attributed the low number of students to the coronavirus pandemic and the economic crisis across the country. Anas Sabit was there and now reports.
The coronavirus pandemic has since its outbreak appended businesses as usual for colleges and universities. Not only have campuses shifted to remote learning almost overnight, but institutions are suddenly grappling with grave financial challenges. The Valley View University is one of several tertiary institutions in Ghana that is being faced with some of these difficulties, with the school's enrollment heavily affected. Speaking at the school's 27th matriculation ceremony, Rector of the Tinkran campus, Professor Emmanuel Amponsa, noted that the school's enrollment for the 2022-2023 academic year is the lowest in recent times.
Today we recorded 500 people on this campus, the lowest in recent times, and it's most likely because of the COVID-19 and the hardships that we have today in the world in general. People are not able to pay their fees. It's a private university, though our school fees can be seen as one of the lowest in the country. Still, people find it difficult to pay. And it is also not possible for people to come to school and work at the same time. So there are certain programs that are not run on weekends, and that makes it very difficult for people to apply. And these are all factors that are affecting the low enrollment.
Newly appointed Vice Chancellor of the school, Professor William Kumsin, noted that steps are being taken to help improve the institution's enrollment by introducing competitive courses, including STEM programs.
Yeah, we need to be competitive. So one will see the number of programs that we are running. Okay, after my induction, we're going to work on that. That will see the number of programs that we are running. Okay, if we can add up more competitive programs like STEM field programs or career-ready programs. And also we need to attract the people both vertically and horizontally. When I talk about vertical and horizontal, what I mean is we will enroll degree students and we will enroll professional students also who are pursuing certifications. So we want to do that.
Professor Emmanuel Amponsa, however, disclosed that the institution is already venturing into various agribusiness ventures that would help cushion the school in the midst of these difficulties.
The good news is that at Valley View, we have hospitals, we have the basic school, we have also farms. We produce the best honey. We also produce maize, cashew, seedlings for coconut, for mangoes, all of them, vegetables and so on. So we have a very big poultry farm. I know that we are into ventures to ensure that even when funds from students' fees will not suffice, these things will come help us.
A total of 1,718 students were enrolled, with 500 of them to study at the Tinkran campus. Anna Sabit, JoyNews, Tinkran.
That's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more stories.